Welcome to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from the Center for New Media at Middlesex Community College. I'm Stephen Minkler, the college's CEO, and your host for these programs. I'm surrounded by a team of students and staff from our digital media production program. You can't see them because they're behind the scenes running all of the equipment that makes Middlesex Moments happen. In fact, we're producing today's show for television, YouTube, Facebook Live, and WLIS WMRD radio all at the same time. How often do you get to see a cool film, even an international film, and have an expert right there in the room to answer questions as soon as the film is over? And everything's free, even the snacks. You don't even need a ticket. Just show up. Well, Common Ground is the title of the annual Middletown International Film Festival, presented by Russell Library and Middlesex Community College, together with faculty from Wesleyan University. Joining me to talk about Common Ground are John Shafer, Professor of Communication at Middlesex Community College, and Gail Thompson-Allen, Director of Programming and Community Engagement at Russell Library. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
So Gail, how long has the film festival been happening?
Well, this is our 11th year, and it started way back in 2008 now, I guess, because of a family in Middletown came to the then current director, Arthur Myers, and said it would be great if the Russell Library would do an international film festival, and he donated $500 toward that. So that was our first initiation. We got a grant from the Connecticut, no, not the Connecticut Humanities, but Middlesex Middlesex County Community Foundation. Okay. So that was our first year, and then it's just taken off from there.
And when you're looking for the films, which we'll talk more in depth about the films that we've selected for this year, how were the films chosen?
By committee from the sponsoring institutions, so Middlesex, myself, and Wesleyan University, and some other staff at Russell who were part of the selection process this year.
Okay. And John, this is your first year in participating on the committee that selected the films for the Middletown International Film Festival. What kind of experience did you bring to your role in the selection committee?
Well, I actually was very excited to be involved with the festival as I normally teach film studies, and I have taught it for many years here. So, but I'm more often teaching historical films. So the film festival is really trying to focus, I think, more on contemporary international films. So it's very exciting for me to be able to be looking at them, because we really look through dozens of films in order to choose the ones that we choose for the festival. So that was a very exciting process to do it. It's fun to see it. It's very enlightening, I think, educational, and I think we've actually picked out some really great films this year for the festival.
Yeah, it sounds it. And Gail, was there any sort of attempt at looking for a theme, or has the film festival tried to take a thematic approach?
In the past, we tried some themes. One very successful theme was the arts, where we had a film about a painter and a poet and a dancer, and that was very successful. We decided to do comedy as a theme because people kept saying, oh, the films are always so depressing, can't we see something that's more light? So we did comedy with not very much success, because comedy is just so different across cultures. So that was kind of, we decided, I don't think we're going to theme things for a while again. So this was the first year again where we did a theme, but it fell naturally into place because all of the films that we selected had a common theme. And John suggested that we do this theme, which was
Children and families in a troubled world. Mm-hmm. Right. So,
and John, I think you said that several of the films were directed by women, which brings a slightly different perspective on the topic of families and children.
That is true. No, we have 6 films, so 3 of the films are directed by women, and 2 of them are first-time women directors. So, and I really feel that in some respects it's the women who have deeper insights into issues like children and families, and certainly they're able to bring, I think, some of the subtleties of the experience of children, which are part of what I think is happening in many of these films.
Okay, great. Well, I think we'll look forward to exploring a little bit more about that theme and the role of women directors when we come back from a short break. And we'll talk about the 4 films that remain in the Middletown International Film Festival series. You're watching Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
At Middlesex Community College, we think your Plan A should be a high-impact, low-cost college education preferably with no student loans required. Get started on your Plan A.
Nindo shumwana oyo. Tapishibo kwa fuma alulumba vyomungulu.
Allow me to introduce to you our new member of the community.
And welcome back to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. I'm Stephen Minkler. You just saw a quick clip from the film I Am Not a Witch, which was filmed and released in the year 2017, coming from the country Zambia, directed by Rugano Nyani. And Gail, when we selected this film, it was chosen because there actually is a true backstory to this film about a young girl who's accused of witchcraft.
Right.
And what did you learn about this film when you were going through the selection process?
Well, someone had mentioned that they thought that this was actually an occurring event at this point in time in history. So I did research and found out that this is in fact the case. Not only in Zambia, but in some other nations in Africa, this witchcraft is practiced to this day and is still going on. And the filmmaker apparently captured this on film and came back and produced this film to let the world know that this was going on.
Although at the same time, I would say that part of what the film is trying to do is actually demonstrate the absurdities of it. So it's there's a slight satirical approach, and I think the filmmaker is trying to symbolically represent what is the strangeness of, for example, being so gullible to believe the kinds of things that they believe. And so not only is it witchcraft, but the way politics and the justice system all operate here as something that the filmmaker is focusing on. So,
yeah, so a little of both social commentary and political commentary. Right. And also the way that children are treated in different countries. I think we get a little used to how families and children are treated in the United States and what our social structure is like, but it's really eye-opening to see films from around the world where the role of women is far different, and how that needs to be presented and communicated throughout the world.
Right, and a couple of the films specifically have young girls as central characters, and that is definitely the case in I Am Not a Witch. And so themes of women and girls and their mistreatment is certainly a part of that film. Summer 1993, which we'll talk about maybe later, that also features a main character who's a young girl. So there's there's definitely, I think, a growing interest and growing focus on women and girls in film these days, which I think is terrific to see.
Definitely. So. And Gail, does the selection committee for the Middletown International Film Festival, do you try to make sure that we've got films that are represented from all different parts of the globe when they're selected?
Absolutely. One of our goals was to get as many different countries represented throughout our film festivals, and this week was our 61st film over 11 years. And out of that, I figured we have 50 countries represented over those 61 films. So, wow. You have to duplicate at some point, but we've been pretty successful in being very diverse.
And this year we're pretty representative of almost every major continent.
Yeah.
So we've got South America, we've got Asia, and Japan, Russia,
Africa.
Europe,
and
Africa.
Yeah.
So we're pretty.
We've covered the globe.
All right.
Pretty well covered.
So, yeah.
You can't cover everything in only 6 films, but.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's exciting for the community to understand is that these are being presented free of charge, and we have a grant and some sponsorships that help us support the Middletown International Film Festival. So who do we give a shout out to, Gail?
Absolutely. Originally I said the Middlesex County Community Foundation was our first grant, but over the next 10 years it was the Connecticut Humanities for 4 of the film festivals. Middletown Commission on the Arts also sponsored a number of years, and we got small grants from Rotary, small donations from Russell Library borrowers, and actually the Philatelic Club of New Haven was a sponsor one year, gave us money to do the film festival.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and also, of course, the Friends of the Russell Library donate to all of our programs.
Okay. So these films are free of charge. Actually, I Am Not a Witch will be October 15th here at Middlesex Community College in our Chapman Hall building. Is that right, John?
Room 605,
Room 605.
which is lower level of Chapman Hall. Yep.
Which actually is a space that was designed sort of as a mini theater, although it's a classroom and a theater at the same time.
It has very high quality both visuals, projection system, and sound system in there. So hopefully it'll be a good place to see these films.
Hope so too. Okay, so the second film that we'll take a quick look at now at a quick preview is called Roma from Mexico, released in the year 2018 and directed by Alfonso Cuarón. So John Shafer, Roma captured a lot of attention this past year, being an Academy Award winner for cinematography, directing, and Best Foreign Language Film. So what can you tell us about the film Roma for viewers who haven't seen it yet?
First of all, I think it's worth noting that Roma is unique. It's kind of a first film because it's a film that was actually originally produced by Netflix and released as a Netflix film, but it was also shown in theaters. So it received equal consideration, and once again, it's considered one of the best films of last year. So, but the fact that is coming from a streaming service is kind of a shift in the way films approach. But Cuarón is actually a very well-known director and has worked at everything from Harry Potter films to Gravity. He was the writer, director, cinematographer for, or I don't know if he did cinematography for that. But he's done a lot of mainstream successful films. But Roma is really a film that's focusing on his own personal background, coming from Mexico. And it is also a very personal film, and because it is focusing on some of his own personal experiences as a child growing up in Mexico. So I think it has a certain deeper meaning for him, and I think you can pick that up a little bit from the film. So,
and Gail, what was going through the selection committee's minds when this film became kind of rose to the top of one of the films that you chose for this year?
Well, because of its critical acclaim, and we want to do films that are critically acclaimed and bring them to the public for free. So that's one of the reasons we chose Roma, because it was so highly revered, and we wanted to share it with our public for free.
We also thought it'd be a great opportunity, even though some people may have seen the film already, but not had a chance to discuss it, which, by the way, is one of the things that we do with the festival, is that we allow opportunities for discussions, and typically are bringing in Wesleyan professors or others, sometimes Middlesex professors, to have discussions. Sometimes they get quite in depth on both the films, the cultures that are involved.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Professor Maria Ospina from the Spanish department at Wesleyan is going to be the guest presenter at the end of the film at its showing on October 22nd, which will be at the Russell Library for this film. So John, since this film won awards for cinematography and directing, are there things that you glean as a professor who teaches in digital media and cinematography that you try to impart on your students? Like, here are some good examples of things that they should be learning as they want to enter the field of motion picture production.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's certainly worth noting that we think of American films as being great visually, but really some of these international films are equally impressive in their visuals, and Roma is a good example of that. The cinematography is just truly impressive. From the very beginning scenes throughout the film, every scene is extraordinary, and so it's a great example for students to study and learn certain aspects of cinematography. And I am hopeful that some of my students will attend. I try to encourage them to attend the films at the festival.
So yeah, speaking of which, again, these are free showings. Roma will be shown October 22nd at Russell Library, free showings, and we do encourage everybody in the community to come out and see them. And I think we've had some pretty good turnout for many of these films. So Gail, how does the film series work in conjunction with other programming at the Russell Library?
Well, we pride ourselves on having some unique programs at Russell Library that have been going on for many years. One wonderful example is a program called Jazz Up Close, which Noah Behrman, a local musician, has gotten grants. So it's free to the Russell Library. We don't pay Noah for his Jazz Up Close. And it's not just a performance. What Noah does is he brings in jazz musicians and artists, and then there's a discussion at the end about jazz. And so it's an educational experience, and if you haven't been, it's one of the best programs that Middletown has to offer right now. It's always a full house, so get there early, because we fill the house, and we've had standing room only. But it's a wonderful program that all should attend.
Okay. So the Russell Library, known for bringing arts and film and media to the community, to the greater community. And that's fantastic. And I think it's great for us to partner as Middlesex Community College together with Russell Library and Wesleyan to bring the film series.
Well, we are all equally trying to bring culture, arts and culture to the community too. So I think it is a great partnership, actually. As a matter of fact, all three institutions, we're all trying to do educational, cultural, artistic activities, and I think it's great when we partner. Absolutely. So.
Okay, well, we do have to take another short break. So when we come back, we'll learn more about the other films that are part of this year's Common Ground Middletown International Film Festival, presented by Russell Library, Middlesex Community College, and Wesleyan University. You're watching Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Every education is a good education, and you can't take any of that for granted. What I learned about community colleges is that the community part is just as important as the college part. And while I went to community college in an attempt to lift myself up, what I found was that I was surrounded by people and we were lifting each other up.
Wait.
Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from the Center for New Media at Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, and we've been talking about the Middletown International Film Festival, known as Common Ground. You just saw a short clip from the film Shoplifters, which is a 2018 film from the country of Japan, directed by Hirozaku Korida. And John Shafer, professor of communication here at Middlesex Community College, you're on the selection committee that chose the 6 films that we are showing as part of this series. What brought Shoplifters to your attention?
Well, certainly Shoplifters is one of the most awarded films around the world at major festivals. Is nominated for a Foreign Language Academy Award. It's an interesting film because it's really focusing on the side of, say, Japan that we don't normally think of, and that's people living in poverty. And apparently there is a real problem with shoplifting in Japan, and that was, I think, one of the reasons Korida, the filmmaker, wanted to focus that. As a matter of fact, he had talked about seeing news stories and clips on it, and so he sort of wanted to delve into this problem. It also, though, turns out focusing a lot on family issues and alternative family, and in this case it's a very unusual family situation that involves children who kind of happen to end up in this group. And I don't want to give too much away on how that particular happens, but but at the same time, it's really focusing on this whole issue of what the meaning of family is. So it's very interesting in the way that it's kind of balancing family issues with social issues and economic and poverty issues, things like that.
Okay. And Gail Thompson-Allen, who's Director of Programming and Community Engagement with the Russell Library, also a member of this selection committee. So the three films we've talked about so far from different parts of the world, Zambia, Mexico, and now Japan, and we were talking earlier about trying to be representative of many cultures when we choose films for the International Film Festival. So how did this film speak to you when you were on the selection committee?
Well, Kurita is a very well-known director, and I've seen numerous other films by him, so I was immediately attracted to it. I think we've considered him before and actually have shown one of his other films. But what drew me was this whole family dynamic in this film, which really makes you think about family and what is really family. And it's not just blood, obviously, and it's a beautiful film.
So in the discussions that happen after the films are shown, and again, this film, like all of them, will have a professor from Wesleyan University this fall who will be available for questions, answers, and some comparative analysis. What kind of discussions occur after films like this?
Well, it's one of the most impressive parts of this film festival. From the first year, we've had wonderful speakers, not just from Wesleyan, but from Middlesex, and we've had people from Yale. We've also had representatives of the cultures that we're showing in the films that are maybe writers. But the interesting thing is that whoever is the leader of the film discussion at the end has been so engaging, and there's never been a problem with discussions after the films. You know how some programs you go to and after the film or after the lecture it's like pulling teeth to get people to talk. But everybody are so engaged and so interested and so willing to ask questions and discuss these difficult issues. I've just been amazed. As a matter of fact, we've had to cut it off at some points because the library has to close at some point. But people have taken it out in the street and finished the discussion. So it's always been a very, very wonderful discussion after the films.
And the films, the discussion, I'd say, I think, really range too, because you can talk certain aspects about the film itself, but you can also talk about the culture, the country, the social issues, some political issues. So there's all of these films are really raising all kinds of interesting questions and issues that allow for really, I'd say, engaging conversations.
Sure.
And then it's the whole thing of common ground, that we're bringing these to people so that even though we're all different and we come from different places, we all are very much the same.
Absolutely. So Shoplifters will be shown Tuesday, October 29th here at Middlesex Community College. The guest speaker afterwards is Scott Allgard, who is Assistant Professor of East Asian Studies at Wesleyan University. So it'd be great to hear his perspective on this film. The final film in the Common Ground film series for the Middletown International Film Festival is a film from Spain entitled Summer 1993, directed by Carla Simon.
Has de resar cada nit per la teva mama. Se'ns n'ha anat, però et vigila des del cel.
So Gail Thompson-Allen, this film traces the journey of a 6-year-old girl and her changing family structure throughout the country of Spain. What did the selection committee see in this film and seeing it being part of the Middletown International Film Festival?
Well, one of the main reasons we chose it was because finally, at the end of the day, all these films are kind of depressing and disturbing, and this was one film that kind of had a happy ending.
Okay.
I would say that it had a little bit of a more optimism in it, and it's focusing a lot on the everyday world of children, even though there's a sort of a dark theme that revolves around and I know it's clear pretty much at the beginning of the film that this young girl loses both her parents. Mm-hmm. So it's a very tragic situation, but it's still actually focusing on the idea of a child being a child, and how they are engaging and interacting with the world, with this sort of darkness and traumatic experience revolving around it. So, but ultimately, it's children learning to deal, and I think that was what I found particularly meaningful about the film, particularly because all these films are so harsh, and there's a lot of trouble in the world. Mm-hmm. In most all these worlds, and so, but it's the resilience, I think, of the children and how they learn to deal with it, and continue living and adapt. Those, which are all great lessons that I think we all have to learn. And so this film does a nice job of I think dealing with that.
Yeah, truly, how resilient all the children are in this film is just so amazing. How I would deal with that situation as a child is very different, and it's impressive to see how these kids do it.
And we were talking earlier about how this is one of a couple of the films in the Middletown International Film Festival series that is directed by a woman, and the different sensitivity, different sensibilities that women directors bring to the topic of children and families. And did you see a lot of that kind of drawn out in her use of the perspective with this young girl?
Sure, and this is another example, by the way. It's one of several of the films that we're showing that is really autobiographical in nature. So Carla Simon is the director. This is her first film, and the story is based on her life experiences. So in many respects, it's a very personal, meaningful film for her. And so she is really telling this story of her own life in that sense.
So actually, sort of a mini theme here. We have two autobiographical films in this series, this and Roma, in some ways, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's the only one. I think I'm trying to remember. One of the other ones is maybe autobiographical too, but I know these two I think are the most prominent. Yep. Maybe not.
Right.
Okay.
It's hard to keep track.
Right. Well, for our viewers and listeners, let's recap the 4 titles of the films that are part of the Middletown International Film Festival, also known as Common Ground. First, on Tuesday, October 15th, is the film I Am Not a Witch from the country of Zambia. Will be shown here at Middlesex Community College, October 15th at 7 o'clock. The second film, on Tuesday, October 22nd, also at 7 o'clock at Russell Library, is the film Roma, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, Oscar Award winner for cinematography, directing, and foreign language film. Then on Tuesday, October 29th, here at Middlesex Community College at 7 p.m., Shoplifters from the country of Japan, directed by Hirokazu Korida. And then the final film in the Middletown International Film Festival series, November 5th at Russell Library, Summer 1993 from the country of Spain, directed by Carla Simon. So those are the 4 remaining films in the Middletown International Film Festival, the 11th edition, correct, Gail, Thompson-Allen. And we want to thank you for being with us as Director of Programming and Community Engagement at Russell Library and for putting together the film series.
Thank you for having me.
And also want to thank Professor John Shafer, who teaches communication, digital media production, philosophy, and other subjects here at the college.
And film.
And film, that's right, cinematography. Thank you for being here and for being part of this partnership together with Russell Library and Wesleyan University.
My pleasure. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. And we want to thank all of you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning into Middlesex Moments, the weekly program from Middlesex Community College. We want to thank our on-air partners, WLIS WMRD Radio. And we invite you to join us not just for the film series, but also to see us at any time here at Middlesex Community College, our main campus at 100 Training Hill Road in the city of Middletown, our Meriden Center at Platt High School, and you can visit us 24/7 at mxcc.edu. For everybody at Middlesex Community College, I'm Steve Minkler.